Good evening, everyone. My name is Nao Takeuchi, and I am a waste management expert from UN Habitats. Nice to meet you all. So I'd like to welcome everyone to UN Habitats Urban Thinkers Campus webinar event on this important day, the first International Day of Zero Waste. The last year, 14th December, UN General Assembly adopted a resolution to proclaim 30th March as International Day of Zero Waste, to be observed annually and to raise awareness of national, subnational, regional, and local zero waste initiatives and their contribution to achieving sustainable development. And then this year is observing the very first day of International Day of Zero Waste. And we are happy to see you all today for this webinar. Just before going into the webinar, I'd like to touch upon some of the global statistics about the waste management. The world is generating more than 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste everywhere, of which 45% is now mismanaged. And this makes a pile taller than a Mount Everest every year, polluting our environment and threatening our health, especially affecting the poor most. And it is estimated that about 11 to 14 million plastic waste find its way into the ocean every year. Also, waste sector is the third largest greenhouse gas emission source. So without action, by 2050, this will be doubled. International Day of Zero Waste came right at a time, I think. Waste management has been the least glamorous field and in long been neglected area. However, not much needed and then deserves global attention. Now it's much needed and deserved global attention is given to the sector, and we should leverage this, pave the path to the right direction. Zero waste is a powerful tool to raise awareness and induce actions at the global level. It's about creating a world where we minimize the waste and the maximum resource efficiency through 5 Rs. It's about designing products and systems that are sustainable, circular, and regenerative. And also, it's all about investing in reverse logistics and waste management to turn waste into resources. So today's webinar is titled What Cities Can Do. And as a waste management, typically the mandate of cities and municipalities, we today would like to delve into different good zero waste city practices from prominent speakers all around the world, then discuss what cities we need to achieve clean and circular cities. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat, and please mute yourself when you're not talking. And we have presentations from prominent speakers, and then that will be followed by a panel discussion and a Q&A session today. So now I would like to move on to give a floor to Ms. Christine Auclair from UN Habitat, my colleague, and to introduce some concept about World Urban Campaign and Urban Thinkers Campus. Christine, floor is yours. Thank you.
Many thanks now for taking the lead in this Urban Thinkers Campus. Good morning, good afternoon. So zero waste is clearly an important objective of UN Habitat. From the United Nations perspective, environmental issues have never been so critical as we speak, and solid waste is at the heart of those issues. One additional statistic that is very general, an additional 2.5 billion people will live in cities in 2050. Cities generate tremendous value, but also negative externalities. Solid waste is part of the equation. So this Urban Thinkers Campus is part of the World Urban Campaign activity. The World Urban Campaign is a UN Habitat global campaign. It has 270 partners. And it has a very simple objective: to improve 1,000 cities, 1 billion lives by 2030, to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goal implementation. So under this campaign of UN Habitat, with our partners, you can join as partners. We agreed to call to action on zero waste today on the occasion of this Zero Waste Day. This Urban Thinkers Campus is part of this effort. We have organized so far 330 UTCs since the creation of the Urban Thinkers Campus, and we have engaged more than 35,000 participants worldwide. So this effort will continue. Solid waste, zero waste is part of the conversation, and we want to increase the mobilization of organizations working in cities. The objective is to work together to collect solutions, to showcase solutions, provide recommendation towards this inspirational target that is 1,000 city, 1 billion life. So join the World Urban Campaign after this session. If you are not yet part of the process, we'd like to join you to join us, and we'll be happy to respond to your question in the chat during the meeting. Over to you now.
Thank you very much, Christine. And also, I'd like to thank my colleague, Christine, for giving us this opportunity using this platform, which is very great collaboration. I'm looking forward to the further collaboration on this matter as well. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to move on to a video. We have messages from executive directors from UN Habitat and UNEP on this occasion. So we would like to play this video now. Sorry, Flavia, the sound is not coming, so maybe when you share, you should turn on the include computer sound. Still we have some problem on the sound. Let me try to do it. Let me share. Apologies for all the technical problems. Could you see the screen of mine? Okay, great. So let me try.
Waste is everywhere.
Perfect.
Maybe it's not working, sorry. Apologies for the technical problems. I hope that now you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Waste is everywhere, from the mountaintops to the urban centers to the depths of the seas.
And it comes in all forms, from plastic to food to electronic.
Waste contributes to the triple planetary crisis, the crisis of climate change, of nature and biodiversity loss, and of pollution and waste. It's a threat to health and costs the global economy hundreds of billions of dollars each year.
Every year, we produce more than 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste, almost half of which is mismanaged. If we keep on this path, by 2050, we will generate almost 4 billion tons every year.
So we need to act now. We have the technical expertise and the drive to innovate. We have the knowledge, both scientific and indigenous knowledge, to find solutions to the waste crisis. But what does zero waste really mean? Quite simply, that we reduce, we reuse, we redesign, and we recycle so that we throw away as little as possible.
Waste management is critical to overcoming housing challenges and how we manage our cities, sanitation challenges, and indeed the climate crisis. It is central to improving the life of people everywhere. Now is the time for multilateral action to create a zero-waste world.
This, the first International Day of Zero Waste, is a real opportunity to build on local, on regional, and national initiatives to foster environmentally sound waste management and to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, International Day of Zero Waste is an important milestone as countries negotiate to forge an international agreement to end plastic pollution. A zero-waste future safeguards not only human health, but also our economies and the environment. We at UNEP stand ready to support member states and businesses as we make this shift towards more sustainable consumption and production practices and a zero-waste world.
UN Habitat can offer local and national governments the expertise on how to incorporate zero waste into urban waste management.
Together, we can create a zero-waste world. Join the Zero Waste movement on International Day of Zero Waste on the 30th of March.
Now you are muted.
I'm sorry. I didn't notice. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I think that those speeches are very inspiring, and then it feels like that we can really reach the zero waste future. So before, and then now I also would like to play another video about the International Day of Zero Waste. So let's see the video. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's okay.
Every year, the world generates 2.24 billion tons of municipal solid waste. If we were to stack that amount vertically, it would make a pile taller than Mount Everest. Every year, year after year. Without action, by 2050, we will increase our municipal solid waste to 3.88 billion tons annually. A mountain range of waste suffocating our planet. Waste aggravates the climate crisis. Waste aggravates nature and biodiversity loss. Waste aggravates pollution. Waste comes in all forms, including plastic, food, textiles, and chemicals. And waste disproportionately affects the poor. But through better design, clearer economic signals, and proper management of waste, we can create a prosperous circular economy. In Africa alone, recycling and recovering waste would produce $8 billion US. We have the technical expertise, the drive to innovate, and the knowledge to find solutions. Our waste, our responsibility. Together, we can beat waste pollution.
Apologies for the technical problems. I hope that everybody's seeing the video and then the message conveyed. So now I'd like to move on to the presentation session. First, we would like to start from Carlos, Mr. Carlos Avi Silva Filho, the president of International Solid Waste Association. And then he will be presenting about the good practices in zero waste and then how ISWA can also promote those issues. Thank you so much. So Carlos, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Now, thank you very much to the UN Habitat, to UNEP, to prepare this great event today to celebrate, to mark the first edition of the International Day of Zero Waste. It's, as we heard from the videos, it's an inspiring date for all of us who deal with waste management. And being here representing the waste and resource management sector on behalf of ISWA is a great, great honor in order to really raise awareness towards better waste management, towards a zero waste planet. Because, as we've heard, humans are driving major change to the planet's ecosystems. Nowadays, we are calling the current era as the Anthropocene, when the human activities will drive changes to the structures of our planet. And waste is one of these externalities, making changes, posing changes and challenges to the overall environmental situation of the planet. And if we continue moving business as usual, waste generation is projected to increase by 70% by 2050 and affect the most developing cities in the world, where we will see the most increase in the population growth. If we keep the current patterns that we are doing nowadays, probably we will require more than 3 planets to provide natural resources to sustain the current lifestyles. And this is taking us to the triple planetary crisis. And it's also a humanitarian crisis, because the environmental pollution, the biodiversity loss, and climate change poses most threats to the most vulnerable ones. So it's time, it's urgent to reset our relationship with planet Earth, with Mother Earth. And on behalf of ISWA, we are very, very happy to celebrate this first edition and to applaud the approval of the resolution, because ISWA's vision since the beginning of the association on the 70s is an earth where no waste exists. For us, waste should be reused and reduced to a minimum, then collected, recycled, and treated properly. Residual matter should be disposed of in a safely engineered way, ensuring a clean and healthy environment. And all people on Earth should have the right to enjoy an environment with clean air, water, seas, and soils. We are developing several projects together with different partners to really tackle the current challenges and move forward towards a more sustainable world, towards a more sustainable lifestyle. And the way forward, according our researches, passes through waste governance, dealing with to protect public health, protect the environment, to recover resources, and thus prevent waste generation. So, trying to answer briefly the question from the webinar of today, what cities can do, we believe that cities can take 5 basic steps to stay alive, 5 steps to keep our lifestyles as good as possible towards a better world. So first, get rid of all dump sites and stop open burning. Foster initiatives on waste prevention and expand source separation efforts towards full circularity. Provide access to feasible and consistent technologies to recover most of the remainings. Maximize the ambition to tackle greenhouse gases emissions and increase adequate financing and ensure robust governance systems are in place. This is the only way forward to start a regenerative and equitable growth model that we need from today onwards. Because the right to a clean and healthy and sustainable environment is a basic human right, and raising the awareness towards sound waste management as a key element to drive towards a better future is fundamental to us to have a better chance for the humankind and for the planet. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you celebrating this first International Day of Zero Waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. It's a very interesting, inspiring presentation. It is really true that there is also a very daunting number, that the scaring number that we needed 3 planets as if we go as business as usual. So we don't have any other planet. So we should really act now. That's a very strong message. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to move on to a next presentation. We would like to welcome Ms. Nazli Yanel, expert and then Director General Environmental Management, Circular Economy and Waste Management Department, Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change from Turkey. Now we were very much looking forward to see the presentation from Turkey, which is really showcasing the good practices on the zero waste. So, floor is yours, Ms. Yanel.
Thank you very much. Esteemed participants, as now mentioned that this is Nazli Yanel, and I would like to express that I'm very proud to be here with you here in this event. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to everyone who took part in the realization of this beautiful organization. Could you please, next slide? Okay. Distinguished participants, we believe that everyone who is working on the protection of the environment and interested in the issue will be talking about zero waste today. And then I will be dealing with this in the context of the one Earth, one family, one future. Next slide, please. So what do we actually mean when we say zero waste? The definition of zero waste is quite complex, actually. Mainly, the zero waste is an approach to reuse and reuse the resources and the waste management based on circularity. It promotes sustainable production and consumption habits and encourages the efficient use of resources. It's also a target defined as waste management philosophy that involves preventing the wastage, using the resources more efficient, reviewing the reasons for waste formation, preventing or minimizing waste formation, and collecting and recovering waste at source separately. Next slide, please. The definition of zero waste also includes the encouraging a more circular approach to the way we use resources, pushing economies towards the target of sending no waste to landfill, incinerators, and ocean, designing and managing products and processes to reduce the volume and toxicity of waste and materials, conserve and recover all resources, and not burn or bury them. Next slide, please. As we explained, it's clear that there is a need for a project for the implementation of zero waste, which has a wide definition. The need for the zero waste projects may sum up like the zero waste entails avoiding wastefulness and advocating for the prevention, reduction, reuse, and recycling of waste. And this can help achieve positive socioeconomic outcomes, including the development of social society. Next slide, please. Now, Turkey is among the countries at the forefront of the zero waste movement. In 2017, under the leadership of Her Excellency Madame Emine Erdoğan, the First Lady of Turkey launched its zero waste project to highlight the importance of sound waste management and reform consumption pattern to achieve the environmental dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in fighting the climate crisis. What you see in this picture, it's the headquarters of our ministry and one of the public buildings where zero waste implementation was first started in 2017. In the smaller pictures, you can see our ministry's own waste temporary storage area, and mobile civic amenity center. Next slide, please. In order to establish a zero waste management system, it's required to at least double collection system, mobile civic amenity centers, and permanent civic amenity centers. Zero waste certificate is being given according to the criteria determined by the ministry to buildings, premises, and local authorities, establishing zero waste system at 4 levels: basic, gold, silver, and platinum. You may also find the detailed information regarding these issues from our website, which is www.zerowaste.gov.tr. Next slide, please. The zero waste guidelines. In order to guide the realization of the works related to the establishment, operation, and monitoring of a sustainable zero waste management system, 11 different guidelines have been prepared by the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization, and Climate Change. And you can see the names of each 11 guidelines on the screen. Next slide, please. Well, now I would like to briefly talk about the results we have achieved since 2017 when we started the implementation. Our recovery rate has increased by 27.2. 18 million people received training with the scope of the project, and we achieved an economic gain of 62 billion Turkish liras. 117,893 buildings or campus and 96 municipalities received certificates, and zero waste system was installed in 160,000 buildings and or campuses. Next slide, please. You can see on the slides that we aim to increase the recovery rate of Turkey, which was 13% in 2017 to 60% by 2035, thanks to the zero waste implementations. Next slide, please. Well, on screen, we are just reflecting the SDG targets related with our zero waste initiatives. SDG 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are quite related to the zero waste implementation, zero waste understanding. I would like to just touch upon the SDG 9. I can also share the rest of the SDGs furthermore, but I don't want to steal your time. The SDG 9, regarding to the SDG 9, the zero waste aims to pursue the circular economy as a pathway for achieving sustainable consumption and production patterns, and thus zero waste initiatives can improve resource efficiency and understanding the need for circular innovation, contributing to SDG 9. Next slide, please. There is a timeline of the zero waste project in Turkey. If we need to summarize the progress from 2017 to the present, in 2018, the zero waste information system was put into use. And then the regulation on zero waste was entered into force in 2019. And the purpose of the regulation is to determine the general rules and principles regarding the establishment, dissemination, development, monitoring, financing, recording, and certification of the zero waste management system. Regulations have been finalized in order to start implementation of charging for plastic bags. The Zero Waste Bureau was initiated in the same year. Zero waste was included into 11th Development Plan of Turkey. It includes also some objectives and targets for waste sector in order to establish a sustainable waste management system, encouraging waste prevention and reduction at source, separate collection, and recycling or recovery of materials. In 2020, the zero waste guidelines, which I have just mentioned, were prepared, and the Turkish Environment Agency, Türkiye Çevre Ajansı, was established, and Turkish environmental law was revised. With the amendments made in the environmental law, the dissemination of zero waste and circular economy practices were included in the general principles regarding the protection, improvement, and prevention of pollution of the environment. In 2021, action plan was prepared with the joint agreement of all ministries, and the Green Deal action plan was published on 16th July 2021. The Green Deal action plan includes 81 actions approved by our ministry under 9 main titles that will affect our country within the scope of the European Union's Green Deal, and the title that includes activities for raising awareness. Also, according to the climate change, Paris Agreement was ratified by Turkey in the same year. In 2022, the United Nations Resolution 77/100 International Zero Waste Day, thanks to this decision. We wish to continue our work together without slowing down in the future. Next slide, please. As you can see on the slide, I would like to just touch upon about the main highlightings of the decision of the United Nations. First one is the decision request to set up an advisory board to promote local and national zero waste initiatives through dissemination of best practices and success stories, recommends the continuation of the discussion on zero waste initiatives, encourages member states, organizations of the UN system, and other international and regional organizations, and declares March 13 as International Day of Zero Waste. Next slide, please. Awards. Our Zero Waste project has been deemed worthy of valuable awards by many different international organizations, especially the UN. If we talk about these awards, the Zero Waste, Zero Hunger Award given by FAO in 2018, Sustainable Development Goals Actions Award by UNDP in 2021, and Waste-Wise Cities Global Champion Award by UN Habitat. Next slide, please. In 2022, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean Award, the Climate and Development Leadership Award presented by the World Bank, and signed the Declaration of Goodwill with the United Nations to promote zero waste projects around the world. Next slide, please. I would like to end my words with one of the slogans of the Technical Assistance Project for the evaluation of Turkey's potential for transition to a circular economy, which is abbreviated as DEEP, which is started in 2022 and closely related to our zero waste efforts. The project is carried also under the European Union's IPA funds. The slogan just says that a livable world with circular economy and green development. For your further comments and questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us via our mail address. You can see at the corner of the slide, which is sifiratik@csb.gov.tr. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Happy Zero Waste Day.
Thank you, Ms. Yanel, for the very inspiring presentation. Indeed, it's very amazing to see that a nationwide system is put in place to promote and implement zero waste actions from all the different actors, including cities and private sectors and individuals. This is very indeed can be a model cases for so many countries and cities can also follow. Thank you very much for your inspirational presentation. So now I'd like to go into another presentation by Ms. Manon Jordan, Implementation Officer of Zero Waste Cities in Europe, Brussels. Hey Manon, can you unmute yourself? Yes, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and then I'm happy to have you here. Would you like to share your presentation by yourself?
I will.
Yeah, okay, great.
Let me select it. Okay. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Perfect. So hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Manon Jourdan. I'm the implementation officer for the Brussels-based NGO Zero Waste Europe. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here today with you for the very first International Zero Waste Day. And today I will go a bit more into details into our Zero Waste Cities program and the best practices I gathered for you from Europe, but also I will try to bring here a more global perspective with an example from Japan. As I understood, we have a global panel today. I think it could be a good call to bring a bit more of a global perspective here. So for the one who don't know us, a very short introduction about Zero Waste Europe. So as I said, we are a Brussels-based NGO founded in 2013. We are composed by 35 members who are NGOs, local group, and communities from all over Europe, from state members. And we have two key areas of action. The first one is policy. So we really try to influence European legislation for more ambitious EU regulations, from product design to waste disposal, embracing the idea, the concept of a sufficient-based circular economy. And then we really try to build experience and knowledge on the ground by mentoring cities and local communities towards a zero-waste transition. So here is our Zero Waste Cities program. So as I say, the Zero Waste City program is, so we are working with cities and local communities in order to really help them and mentor them to transition towards zero waste. So we do so hand in hand with our members, our national members. And so what's our approach with cities and communities? So we really try to emphasize on the fact that in order to reach zero waste, we need to really act continuously to phase out waste, not by burning, neither by landfilling it, but instead by creating and implementing systems that do not generate waste in the first place. So systems that do not generate waste in the first place mean that we really try to push, advocate, and emphasize on waste prevention above waste management. So Zero Waste Europe Cities program nowadays counts over 480 municipalities in 15 countries engaged and supported to develop zero waste strategies. We count, as I said, with a network of local and national coordinators via the Zero Waste Europe members. We count with model frontrunners and best practices. I selected some of them and I will present them to you later. And then we launched very recently the world's first certification program, which is a Zero Waste Cities certification, which allowed municipality that wants to commit to be kind of labeled as Zero Waste City to compare with the to-do list further into the implementation of more ambitious actions. So using the data collected from our 460 zero waste municipality, we understood that we have an average separate collection rate of 67%, which is higher, almost 20 percent higher than the EU average. And then we have an average total of municipal solid waste generation of 342 kilograms per capita, which is 160 kilograms less than the EU average in 2020. So those are first results. And of course, we are aiming for better and for more, for greater results. And so we are always pushing the participating municipalities to go further. So what's the basic framework of a zero waste city for us? So first of all, we, as I said previously, waste prevention measures should be a priority, adopted by the municipality where possible and encouraged where they have no power. So for example, here is a non-exhaustive list, but to give you some concrete example, this could be done by promoting packaging-free shops, nappy laundry and cleaning, reuse and repair centers, supporting businesses to implement deposit return scheme, and so on. Another very good things to implement when it comes to waste management is curbside collection, which is also called door-to-door, which can be associated to pay-as-you-throw system or the financial incentive. And these two tools, let's say, prove to be the most efficient when it comes to achieve high separate collection rates. Another thing is, of course, organic waste collection, ideally door-to-door, which should be associated to the promotion of home and community composting wherever possible. Another very important point that we always try to push within the municipalities who are part of the network, which is to be sure to annually, if possible, to audit, to assess their residual waste in order to analyze what are the most problematic items and packaging, and to really be able to redesign and adapt the policies in order to really target what's the most important. For municipalities to be open and to engage as much as possible the local community in order to be able to count with their high participation and their commitment. And then finally, it's really important to look inwards in order to identify further waste reduction measures and incentives. And this can be done in public events in space and also through green and circular public procurements, for example. So the benefits for the city, going very fast into that, because I think most of you know, it's of course less litter, less waste to manage, less residual, which results of course in reduced expenses for the city, reduced fee for the citizen, less environmental impact of course, and then more social integration, more innovation, more local job, and really the money stayed in the community, so it's really good for the local economy. And now getting into the details and the best practices and the success story we can gather from across Europe, I'm going to share with you some examples from our zero waste municipalities. First of all, I will go into Italy, which counts the highest amount of zero waste municipality. We have out of roughly 8,000 municipalities there which commit into zero waste strategies. And out of these 8,000, we have almost half of it, so almost 4,000, which are above 70% separate collection rates. And then we also have 122, which are above 90%, which is a very good result. In terms of minimized residuals, we count 2,406 municipalities below 100 kilograms per capita per year. And out of those 2,400 municipalities, 39 are below 30 kilograms, which also are very good results. And of course, as I said, we always try to push for better ones and for the further implementation of those zero waste strategies. Ljubljana, talking about Ljubljana, which is in Slovenia, I wanted to go and to talk a bit about this capital because it's been the first zero waste capital city in Europe. So in 2014, the waste management company of Ljubljana, which is called SNAG, adopted 3 main strategies in order to move towards zero waste, which have been very, very successful. So the first one is a door-to-door collection system with a strong focus on organic waste. So this allowed them to lower the frequency of collection for residual waste, and they really emphasized and pushed a strong communication strategy focused on prevention and reuse in order to really count with the participation and commitment of their citizens. And this led to very good results. So for example, they managed to decrease their waste generation by 15%. Going to the other slide, you can see their recycled and composted waste average went up to 68%, and then the amount of waste sent to landfill decreased by 95%. Another best practice is pay as you throw. So there is a success story from Treviso, which is a region in Italy. And in Treviso, there is this waste management company called Comparina, which introduced a pay-as-you-throw system a few years ago. And as you can see in these 2 graphs, from the moment they introduced the pay-as-you-throw system, the separate collection rates started to increase. And in parallel to that, you can see that the residual waste per capita decreased. So this very good results and high performance results in lower costs. So here you can see that if you compare Comparina, so the Treviso region, waste management cost to the other region of Italy, you can see that in Comparina, the waste management costs are far lower than in the other Italian region. Another best practice, and here it's again in Italy, is the story of Milan, which introduced in 2012 a food waste door-to-door separate collection system for household, restaurants, bars, and canteens. And then they are also collecting food waste at the end of each markets. They associated it to a very strong communication and awareness-raising campaign to be sure that there is a strong participation of the citizens. And then with the food waste collect, they produce biogas, and they also produce some compost from the digesters. This is a very good example because what happened is that, of course, the bio-waste separation collection rate went higher, same for the recycling streams, but it also ensured more purity in the bio-waste, but also in the separate waste system. And then a little word on Tübingen, which is a city in Germany, which embraced and introduced a very comprehensive reuse strategy, which is very innovative and can set a good example for other European cities, but also for global cities. So they really try to build a comprehensive reuse strategy. So they first introduced a citywide tax on single-use plastic items, such as cutleries, packaging for food, beverage containers. And then in parallel to that, they introduced a no tax on reusable packaging options in order for those options to be more preferable, more desirable from citizens. They also introduced the requirements for all events and shows that happen in the city. So all these events and shows should and must use reusable packaging for food, beverage, and cutleries. And then, of course, they are supporting business transition to reusable alternatives by providing subsidies for dishwashers, for example. So for now, we don't have much data about the results of this strategy, but in 2022, the city told us that they observed a decrease of approximately 15% of public waste bins. And then very quickly, I would like to go to zero waste solution in the global south, especially in Asia. Because here the situation is a bit different than in Europe. We have a strong and massive push for incineration in the global south, which is a major obstacle to the development of a more resource-efficient approach aiming at zero waste. We all know that incineration has a lot of negative effects. It's not a resource-efficient technology. It's a carbon-intensive process. It discourages strongly waste prevention and recycling because it locks in the city into increased generation of waste over time. It's a very expensive technology and it doesn't stimulate local economy. And the list of negative effects can be even longer. But what I want to show you here is that, and there are many other examples like that, is that in Southeast Asia, there are like many very good success story of local communities who are really trying to build more resilient system when it comes to, more resilient system and more efficient system, and in reaction to this push for incinerators. So this is a story of Kamikatsu in Japan in 2001. They banned the use of their incinerators due to health concern, due to high level of dioxide. In 2003, the town declared its zero waste goal of eliminating waste by 2020. And a few years later, they started the Zero Waste Academy, which allowed them to manage as waste collection center, circular shop for reusable items, and so on. And so today we can see that the household are separating waste in 45 categories, which is a very aggressive system, but it proved to be very, very efficient. So they wash them and they transport them to the recycling center. And what happened is that in a few years, the cost of waste management in Kamikatsu has been reduced by 1/3. And then 81% of waste is recycled. So I also think that it's a very strong example showcasing that, yeah, we can say no to incinerator and build way more efficient waste management system based on waste prevention and also more efficient recycling techniques. So thank you for your attention. If you are interested and if you want to check out our website, Zero Waste Cities, you can find them further information. You can find their case study and good practices and guidance for municipalities. So it's a very good website if you want to find more tools. And then, of course, you can reach me on my email, which is there on the bottom left of this slide. Thank you. Happy to answer your question later. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Manon. This is a very, very interesting presentation and it's very convincing. I think that those impressive data and then the evidence-based policy recommendations are very much convincing and inspiring for so many cities, and indeed a gem for many cities seeking solutions for ever increasing amount of waste. So we look forward to the further collaboration for disseminating those good practices in the future through the Waste Cities and Zero Waste Europe. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now I'd like to go to the last presentation by Mr. and Pauline Bregea. executive officer of Copet Ltd, the public company who is establishing a solid waste management system in Rwanda. As you may know that the Kigali is one of the cleanest cities in sub-Saharan Africa. I think that we can really hear how he and then his company has developed the waste management system. Pauline, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, great. Could you turn on your camera if possible? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, great.
Do you see me?
Still not seeing. Yeah, I think we haven't seen you, but if it's a little bit difficult, you can also go ahead for the presentation, but maybe it would be more human to see your face for the audience, I think.
To switched on, but I don't know what happened. But I can go ahead maybe.
Yeah, you can go ahead as well.
Okay, so
yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Lau, and a happy Zero Waste Day for everyone. I'm called Paulin Brigier. I came from a private company, not a public company, called the Copet, a company for protection of environment and development. We are in the waste business from more than 20 years now. And today's preoccupation is to promote smart city solutions. And we have 3 solutions that we offer: waste management solution, water and sanitation solutions, city cleaning and beautification. So now the question today is what city can do. And for us, based on our experience, we realize that we need more things to do, but the most important is to decide to make a shift. A city should decide to make a shift from a classic system, let's say archaic system, how they do their things, then to move to modern system and to smart system. But the second is to set priority. That I will come back to this priority later. So next, please. I think the next slide is now slides. I'll show you now the case of Kigali, where we are now going to show you how Kigali have moved from the classic system to a modern system, and now we are quoted the cleanest city in Africa. So next. So yeah, the first priority a city should take is to set waste regulations, set strong awareness and strong education for all. About the education, about the laws, in Rwanda we have what are the policymakers, and these are mainly the line ministries to set key objectives. These are the policymakers. We have also regulators. These are the public institutions that are there to set regulations, issue licenses, and check the compliance. Then we have also local authorities like districts. Their role is mainly to do a control, to check on the service delivery. On the side of awareness, we Kigali have conducted 2 types of awareness. There is awareness dedicated for residential areas, where households are given 2 bags of different colors, one green bag for organic and blue bag for recyclable or inorganic waste. And that is a campaign. So, but for commercial campaign or awareness, it's a door-to-door visit and training, really training. This is a case of like a restaurant or a hotel where the young graduate can go and teach the people that are in charge of waste management, the best practice of waste sorting, all about sorting. This is the awareness that is conducted in Kigali. So next, please. The next priority for Kigali now, we have that was the waste evacuation. So the priority really targets to as much as possible evacuate all waste from Kigali city. And currently we are talking or estimating about 90% of waste at least is collected and removed from the population. So, and we explored the, initiatives where we, after waste is separated in green and in blue, it's also collected separately. So this is like a case as a collection center where all organic waste is piled in a green bag and inorganic waste is in a blue bag, and they are collected by different trucks and different to the landfill. So next priority for our case is the waste valorization. After collection, we have mainly organic waste and inorganic waste. So we conducted different pilot initiatives where organic waste was tried to be turned into composting in a windrow system, but we explored the different disadvantages related especially to loss of nutrient and a lot of emissions because it is done on air, and that is affected by the sunlight and heavy rains. So, but currently we are exploring a made in Rwanda machine that is called the composter, where we are now targeting to shift from this an aerobic composting into aerobic composting, and those machines are mainly intended to be produced locally with our technical schools. So what the advantages are we have less space to be used, less manpower, less emissions, and less time. So that is an innovation that we are conducting. So the next priority, number 4, for the city in Rwanda, mainly in Kigali, is also the valorization of inorganic waste. So for this case, with the piloting phase that we conducted, at least we have seen if you really separate organic waste and inorganic waste, we are up to be able to take recyclable parts, or all valorization can take 80%, and you can dump 10 to 20%. So for inorganic material, we use simple technology, which is mainly size reduction, and sell the recyclables to local farms that are doing recycling here locally in Rwanda. Next, please. Another priority that is taken by the city of Kigali is to make a daily cleaning and greening, and that is an activity that is mainly done by women, and is creating a lot of job for women. As you can see on this picture, the work is not done by machines, but it is mainly done by the people. Even if you have the few machines that are also make the intervention, especially during night hours where we have less traffic, but at least the roads in Kigali are daily maintained by people, and they are really clean. You can find any litter waste that is in those roads. So next step is to show you also how the work is done. Our priority was to really use the people for all work related to greening. You can see, for example, these roads. You can see these green space. They're always maintained by our people. At the end, next, please, we will see the results at the end of this. Next, please. This is the overall result now. The overall result was a city that is very clean. And at the end now, let's talk about the solution, the full comprehensive solution that is really a circular economy approach, where we think 6 steps are needed to be integrated together, where the first step is to make sure that you do collection and education, then pre-collection, then you properly do collection, properly do pre-treatment, which is another advanced sorting on site. Then go to treatment and disposal, where you start doing recycling. Then try to apply what you get from the treatment to the field. Let's say take the organic to the farmers, or why not use the organic waste for greening the city? So what we say, the city beautification. So that's the end of my presentation. At the end, you can see we are call upon everyone to be a change agent, because in Kigali we use the one principle where we do we change the look of the city, and we have seen people changing their behavior. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for such an inspiring presentation from a city, one of the cleanest city in Africa. It's really impressive to see how you really developed all this infrastructure system, also policy and interventions to really go towards circularity and in zero waste. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to go into the panel discussion, asking different questions. So would all the speakers, could you turn on your camera so that we can have a little bit of a discussion here before going to the Q&A session? Thank you. All the presentations were very impressive and inspiring, I think, and very suitable for this International Day of Zero Waste. Pauline and Carlos, are you here? Maybe
Yes,
Pauline also
here.
has got a bit of a technical problem for sharing the turning on the camera, but I have a quick two questions for each speakers. On first of all, I would like to ask, if cities become a zero waste or go zero waste, how would it look like? Is it clean and circular, everyone practicing 5 Rs, plenty of green jobs, material recovery chain, and then appropriate waste management recovery infrastructure, and so on? I think there are the elements that really constitutes the zero waste city. So maybe if you could give us a little bit of like a one word for what kind of cities we need to going towards zero waste, and that would be great. And then also second question is, what actions can be done at individual level? So what kind of city we want going towards a zero waste, and second, what kind of action can be done at individual level? So I'd like to go through maybe first Carlos.
Thank you, Nell. Thank you for this very interesting question, and congratulations to all the speakers for the excellent presentations. We understand here from ISWA that going towards zero waste will make cities more livable and with better quality of life for everybody. But it's important to learn that it's a path to be really implemented. It's not like from night to day that one can reach a zero waste pattern. We need, as we advocate here from ISWA, we need really to have good strategies in place that aims towards a zero waste city, as we learned from the presentations today. So first step would be to stop all inadequate disposal of waste, so dump sites, and also to stop open burning that still happens in many cities of the world. Then we need to engage citizens, producers, the commerce, and all stakeholders towards this agenda. But from a municipal perspective, to ensure that all adequate infrastructure is in place. So adequate infrastructure to provide regular collection and separate collection of waste, adequate infrastructure for sorting of waste, adequate infrastructure to have like a destination of this waste. So landfills in place, waste to energy plants in place, because we really need to provide good alternatives and adequate license alternatives for the remainings, because we are not able yet to get rid of all the waste generated by our citizens. And in terms of individual actions, I would say every change begin with the individual. So we need to go for wise consumption choices, trying to really have the reduction of waste, to practice source separation and promote reuse initiatives. One very important action from an individual perspective is stop littering, because littering is a huge problem in cities nowadays. And last but not least, I would say to be an ambassador for this cause. I'm sure that each and every one of us can be an ambassador and promote the change, as we all agree that the change is urgently needed. So this would be our considerations for today. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. It's very comprehensive, from the waste management system to individual actions. Thanks so much. So now I'd like to go to Miss Yanel. What kind of city do we need and towards a zero waste, and what kind of individual action is needed?
Well, these two were such an amazing questions. Very, very nice. I would like to hear. Very happy to hear that questions from your side. Of course, the quality of life should be increased when we have the zero waste cities, and the air pollution, water pollution, and the solid waste pollution will be minimized. It will be reduced by doing so. And to do this, of course, a great role falls on the local authorities and the government. In addition, a legal infrastructure is absolutely necessary to handle that kind of businesses. And it's also necessary to support incentives, and the investment must be done by the relevant authorities, relevant stakeholders, and the businesses, the sectors, the universities. We should get a great understanding, and also we have to increase the awareness campaigns. The second question, the individual actions. Of course, I'm totally agree with the Carlos and what he says. And also I would like to just add something on it, if you accept my words. You have to start everything individually. For example, moving away from fast fashion, for example. And also it's necessary to be a responsible consumer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a very, very important part that we should also start change our behavior towards the responsible consumption. I think we got a very important words today here. Now I'd like to go to Manon. If you have some, give you some piece of your knowledge and intelligence for this, please.
Yeah, happy to. So to the first question, what kind of cities do we want? Zero Waste Europe narrative is maybe slightly different from the one we heard previously from the different speakers. So we really believe we should shift from pure waste management towards what we call resource management. So we really believe that cities should embody what we call an authentic circular economy, or in another term, sufficiency-based circular economy. And I could see here maybe 4 big areas of action. The first one would be to really ensure that we have just and sustainable local production and consumption patterns that are really capable of reducing our need for natural resources, while also, of course, ensuring an equitable distribution of those resources among the inhabitants of a city. Then, of course, what I would call an authentic circular city would be a city where energy and material circulate within the territory in a closed loop, thanks to zero waste policies, such as policy based on refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle at the end, of course, of this hierarchy. And then a very important key areas of action, of course, is to be sure that we have decentralized governance models that really encourage community-led initiatives and give maybe the local stakeholders more ownership over the community. And then a last area that I really believe would really help this change to be concretized is to really have policies that help. What could I say? Yeah, that really promote a renewed presence of nature in the city. So the protection of biodiversity and natural ecosystem would be a priority and would kind of provide this framework for the public action. And then when we comes to the second question, so about the individual, what kind of individual actions we would like to promote, or what kind of, what individuals can do. So yes, I totally agree with what Carlos and Nasli previously said, especially the part about being an ambassador. And I think this is really important. So I feel like, of course, we can all do something, and we should all, how to say, be the change you're preaching for. So yes, we should all do something that is in coherence with our values and what we're advocating for. However, if I can add two things, the first thing is like, I think we have more power when we are in a group. So if you just stay in your little corner and do the things perfectly, but then you don't go out of this personal circle, if you don't reach the community, if you don't talk to your leaders, if you don't try to advocate for better change, to hold the politics responsible, then maybe change will not happen. And the second thing is like, individual change is important, but I think what's important the most important change is a systemic change. So we should all advocate for systemic change and not put too much attention into the individual actions, because if we don't ensure proper infrastructures and if we don't facilitate this individual change, then the change will not happen. A clear example is that if you tell people to consume in a more sustainable way, but then you don't offer them the options to consume in a more sustainable way, then they will not do it. So yeah, individual change is good, but then we should be sure that we allow this change to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the most important point. I can't agree more. This point that the systemic change is needed. If you do the source separation, but the system is not put in place, the separated waste will be mixed and then brought into the landfill site. So we should really take note of this, that system change and design should come with individual change as well. Thanks so much. Maybe now I'd like to go to Pauline. What city do we need and what individual action is needed here towards the zero waste? Pauline, are you there?
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. So the city we need is now for us the city that is able or ready to go for zero waste, because if you consider a lot of opportunities that can be offered, especially on job creation. In Africa, we have a different scenario. We have our context, so that we have to consider. And based on the few trials that we tried as a pilot, we have seen a lot of job created. If you go for really zero waste, that means you go for valorization. You have mainly that the component of a job, social, economic, environment, or the sustainable package that is really taken into consideration highly in Africa. So our city will be, as a result, our city will be much more clean. Our waste will be much more well managed, and more resources also. If we go for, like here in Africa, we rely on agriculture, so it's a pity that we are always losing our resources, bringing our organic waste into landfills. So going for zero waste, that means we have a lot of profit based on our African context. So a lot of lesson that we can learn from that principle. So now at the individual level, I took this approach as an individual city, not individual person. Let's say an individual city. So like the decision taken, the most clean city in Africa, that was an individual decision. It was there was no meeting that happened to force the cities to be as much as clean. So, but our government decided to go for clean and beautiful city. So our individual decision for us, I took not as on a personal level, but at city level. So and a individual decision as a city, or this is what I said, a city should really set priorities and put waste into priorities. The city should go for integration, so integrate the participation of all, let's say, the government side. We have to integrate the waste operators, and we finally have to also integrate the waste generators. So all three together, if they work together, they will make an individual case of a city. So, and all things will be very nice. So we'll see a wonderful result if we work together at individual level on a city level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's also a very important point. Maybe resonating what Manon said, that probably that systemic change also really should come together. And then I also thank you so much, Pauline, for also mentioning this African and regional context. The job creation is something that we shouldn't really forget. About 8 to 10 million, 6 to 8 million jobs can be created, and that is an estimation from UN agency through the transition to the circular economy. So that is also a very important aspect, I think. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to move on to the Q&A session. We have at the moment two questions from the chat. So now I'd like to want the one question from Kao Ashpreet. Does the UN Habitat has any research opportunities in zero waste? I am a researcher in the field of zero waste, would like to contribute. Thank you very much, Kapo. Kawa, sorry, I hope that I pronounce your name correctly. Yes, I think that the research on this and then collecting good practices on zero waste is more and more important activities for the future and then towards the next year's zero waste celebration. So we hope that we can also leverage resources for this kind of activities. And then the second question is, we know that companies play important roles in waste generation. How should they do to include circularity in the production chain? I think this could be answered probably by Nazli very well. And then maybe Manon, if you have some a little bit thoughts on this. Nazli, please go ahead. What kind of what can they do for circularity in the production chain? That's a question.
Well, it's also a brilliant question. Thank you for the asker. And the circularity, it's not cradle to cradle. As it's mentioning from the linear, it's against the linear economy model, so that we have to more focus on the end of life models and the value chains. Business to business models should be encouraged, just because we have to find a way to use the waste as a resource as soon as possible. Just because while we are talking about the items as waste, not resource, we couldn't be able to go any further steps. Because of that, the business sector and the analysts of the waste and the related issues should be promoted by the governments and the responsible bodies, and the financial mechanism should be established according to the achieve the best results on this issue, and the circularity models all over the world should be taken under the focus of the core of the business models. Otherwise, we couldn't take any more further steps. For example, we have been conducting a project, the DEEP, as I presented during my presentation, and we are now trying to organize the sector representatives under a same roof, and then we are seeking for the chance to them, put them into the connection with each other. And I think the end of life of the materials and not counted as the waste, as we would like to keep them into the value chain as much as possible. I think this is the core of the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any speakers would like to contribute to this question?
Yeah, maybe I can add a little thing. So
Yes.
the question
Yeah.
is supposed to be is how should the companies include circularity in the production chain, right?
Yes.
So I think a good tool that could be explored, that is still a bit weak, but could be explored to further improve circularity is what we call extended producer responsibility. That is for now really focusing on recycling, but could really promote reuse, eco-design, etc. And one tool from this tool is what we call eco-modulation. So eco-modulation, for the one who don't know, is a fee that could push for a better design, for example, and better circularity along the value chain, so the production chain. So yeah, it's something worth investigating and pushing and advocating for, because I think it could be a powerful tool for the future. Yeah. So for now, as I said, EPR are mostly focused on recycling, but I really believe that if we are, how could I say, if we are like pushing for a bit more ambitious EPR, we could really promote reuse, for example, and better eco-design of products, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So it's more like extended producer responsibility system with the extended scope for looking for the entire product chain. Would be very interesting idea, I think. Any other contribution from the speakers on this question?
Now, I would just add to that,
Sure,
if I
please
may,
go ahead.
that it's mostly important that industries start really looking towards shifting from the current business as usual extracting and production system to really incorporate circular practice from the raw materials they need, and substituting, replacing these raw materials by secondary raw materials. So we need a change on that point, and also to incorporate net zero practice, not only in terms of reduced emissions, air emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, but also net zero initiatives in terms of a waste reduction. So this is very important that are incorporating the production system, because as we discussed before, just leaving the citizens or consumers to the responsibility of the consumption patterns, it's really not something that will make the whole change. So we need to start from the extraction process, the production, the manufacturing process, in order to deliver better options in terms of consumption patterns, and then towards a better waste management system.
Thank you so much, Carlos. So now we are kind of running out of time, and then this it's really exciting to see this very active discussions, and then now we are having more and more questions. So one is related to the producer's responsibility, and then one is related to food waste. However, we have to go into the closing remark, and but we would like to let you know that everybody that let you know here that this practice will be ongoing with the International Day of Zero Waste activities deepening for the coming years, so that the good practices on reducing the waste and then so on will be collected and then shared through our program called Waste Cities. So now I'd like to move on to the closing remark from Mr. Takehiro Nakamura, Director, International Environment Technology Center from UNEP. Takehiro, floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. I guess that you can hear me. My name is Takehiro Nakamura. I'm the head of the International Environmental Technology Center of UNEP, which is a designated waste center within the United Nations Environment Program. And first of all, congratulations for this important seminar, which really presented the good initiatives of the zero waste. And this is really important good practices already shared among the participants today. And congratulations for that. And I hope that the audience really enjoy the day celebration, International Day of Zero Waste today. When we really received the General Assembly resolution, we're also wondering what is really zero waste initiatives. I think Dr. Yanal from the Turkey was really talking about the definition, and we also found out that defining this zero waste initiatives quite complicated issues. So we decided not to really define the zero waste initiative. At the same time, we found out there are already good initiatives ongoing, really taking on the spirit of the zero waste. That we all know that the waste management system is not catching up with the ever increasing waste generation in the world. If the waste management is not really catching up, the only thing we can do is we reduce waste, we reuse waste, and we recycle waste. Otherwise, the waste management cannot really cope with the ever increasing waste in the future. Then what are we going to really do in terms of reduce, reuse, and recycle? If this can be the 3R concept is fine, and it's been there for the last maybe 20 years. At the same time, it's important to know that how to really do that. What action should be really done at the individual level, the producers level, and consumers level, as well as the waste management level. So for that purpose, I'm very glad that the good practices are introduced today. Those are very practical. And those can be really replicated. And those can be really incorporated in different parts of the world and the different initiatives. And then Turkish initiatives introduced by Dr. Nazli Yenal was very fantastic. And the good practices introduced by the Zero Waste Europe, Italy, Ljubljana, Kamikatsu. And in the chat, I saw quite a lot of chat messages from Germany, Zero Waste US, Senegal, Zambia, India, and then Sweden. We also started really thinking those good practices are really defining the zero waste. And for that purpose, the UNEP and the UN Habitat jointly established the good practices repository, building on that 10-year framework of program for sustainable consumption and then production patterns, good practices, the database. So this data system is going to be launched in New York today on the International Day of Zero Waste. And once it is launched, I think the Habitat and the UNEP can share the link with this good practices, the system. We don't want to really lose the good practices shared today. Not only the one-shot the sharing, we would like to really keep those good practices presented today to be in our system, to be shared continuously with the different waste the stakeholders or zero waste stakeholders. So for that purpose, I congratulate you for these good practices, and I congratulate you to really sharing the good practices in your own network. And we just would like to really get your assistance in circulating your good practices wider and replicated your good practices in different parts of the world. That's a kind of really important message of the International Day on Zero Waste. And let's take this advantage of the International Day to really bring up the good practices and then share the good practices and send the good practices and replicate our good practices later. And then several people talked about the producers, private sectors. Yes, we also consider this is a very important part of the zero waste. At the same time, we also found out that zero waste initiatives are good for the environment, but also for the job creation and the economic values. In just 5, the production sectors, the cement, aluminum, steel, plastics, and then food, zero waste initiatives can eliminate almost half of the emissions from the production of goods, 9.3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent for 2050. This is equivalent to cutting the current emission from all transport to zero. So instead of really cutting down all the transport to zero, we can take the zero waste initiative only for 5 sectors. In the plastic sector, a shift to reuse and the refill systems may generate close to 1.4 million new jobs by 2040. So zero waste is not only for the environment. Zero waste is not for the effective the city governance. It's also creation of the job. It's also creation of the economic growth. So we start to really find out really good values of the zero waste initiatives, and really would like to ask you to really share with us your good practices and your thinking and your innovation for us, so that we can further develop this zero waste initiatives into really globally adapted approaches in the world. With this, that I just would like to really send my closing remarks to this seminar. And thank you very much for the Habitat ISWA organizing this the event. And we certainly look forward to really interacting with you, not only for the next year's International Day of Zero Waste, but in the meantime, we still will continue discussing and promoting and then developing the zero waste initiatives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Takehiro, for such an encouraging closing remark. I also hear that many of the participants are asking for that more of this kind of opportunity. So maybe we can really make this webinar into a series for the sharing the good practices. So as we close this session, I would like to first question, out of more than 2 billion tons of waste generated every year, how much of them are really waste? Are we just really waste? Are they really waste, or we are just not wise enough to extract value from that? So this is a piece of notes. Maybe you can take home and think about it, and then maybe see you next time on this similar occasion. And then thank you very much for all for joining here, and keep in touch. See you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy
Bye-bye.
Zero Waste Day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.